flicks me a back body. So, it's another one, yeah. It's a full run, yeah. Oh, it's another one, yeah.
Hello and welcome to Green Diamond Boxing, hosted by iBoxingHub. My name's Aisha and I'm very pleased to introduce my guest for today, professional boxing coach, Mr. Bobby Mills. Hi, Bobby.
How you doing? You all right?
Good. How are you?
All good. Busy day today in the gym. But yeah, that's what we do. But yeah, now just relaxing, talking to you guys.
Good. So I have got loads of questions for you. Lots to talk about in terms of your fighters, but I wanted to start off with a bit about yourself. So could you please tell me just a bit about yourself and your journey to becoming a professional boxing coach?
Yeah, so got into boxing probably around the age of 14, 15. My uncle was a heavyweight amateur boxer. So that was really my route into the sport. So I started training with him for years, really, on and off, and had a few amateur competitive bouts. And then realized sort of fairly early that coaching was my passion. And that I enjoyed teaching and working with people, and found early on that I got a lot of satisfaction doing it. So in my early 20s, I think it was about 23, when I started actually getting my qualifications and I started coaching. So I spent the first year coaching in schools. So I took on contact boxing program across all different schools across mainly London, some in Croydon. Did that for probably about a solid year to 18 months through an organisation called London Community Boxing. So that was my first sort of real route into coaching. And then a sort of year later, got involved with where I am now, the place that really gave me an opportunity, which is RnR Boxing Gym in Brixton.
Wow. Okay. What do you really love then about coaching?
Probably seeing the impact it has on the people you work with. So and that comes in many different forms. So it's really satisfying, whether it's, in terms of boxing, whether it's something physical, whether it's technical, but probably more so in terms of what it does for them as a person, character, their personality, what they learn through the sport of boxing. Because, I think it's obviously the best sport out there. And I think what it teaches them and what you see them sort of develop and progress into as a person is probably the most satisfying part.
Wow. So do you see quite a transformation in terms of them outside of their kind of boxing session or outside of the ring? Do you see them transform quite a bit as a person?
Yeah, a lot of the time, because we actually work with, so in the gym in Brixton, RnR Boxing Gym, we work with kids from 7 years old upwards. So you can imagine, like, we're working with young people as well as pros. So you see the impact it has on those kids that do come in and need discipline and structure and belief in their life, and they're not getting it at school, they're not getting it at home, but they're getting it in boxing gyms, they're getting it in sports organizations with like coaches that become like mentors and role models to them. And that's the place where you have a big impact on those young people. So that's where I started as an amateur coach when I did start volunteering for RnR Boxing Gym from 2014 actually. A year later, started competitive coaching, and been at it ever since, since then. So you see a big impact it has, from my personal experience, from young people all the way up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you've mentioned the gym a couple of times, RnR Boxing Gym. Can you just tell a bit about the background of that gym and how it got started?
Yeah, so it got started in 2014. Just through the founders, Stedman Scott, Tony Goldring, who have been in the Brixton Recreation Centre. That's where we're based. Since 1997, they've been there doing football, because we also were a sports charity that do boxing and football. And it was their belief that central Brixton needed a hub, a home for young people to come to and do something positive. And, that's what boxing's been, known with over the years, is being that sort of establishment that can do all that. For the youth. People that know Brixton know that it is a place which, it does have a lot of, or it did have, in terms of like gangs and youth violence and deprivation. It kind of ticks all those boxes, Brixton, in South London, certain areas in South London in general. So we just felt that that part in central Brixton where we're located, right in the heart of it, needed something like that. So that was the sort of thought behind it. And then in 2014, we started initiating non-contact boxing in a sports hall. So we had no equipment, no permanent ring. We used to put up one of those mobile rings that you slide in, metal frames, the bag. So you sort of walk in at 5 o'clock. It was just an empty sports hall. Come back an hour later, and it's a fully fledged boxing gym, with a ring, bags, and set that up. Myself and a guy called Peter at the time, who was helping. We set that up three times a week, voluntarily, and just basically built it from that. The centre supported us in allowing us to do it, and then slowly we started getting members through the doors. Started getting members running sort of 3 classes a week, and then before you know it, a year later, almost to the day, I found myself in my first corner at 25 years old.
Wow.
My first amateur.
What was that like?
It was an experience, put it that way. It was an experience because remember, I haven't had anyone sort of walk me through or navigate me through the jungle that is boxing, or certainly coaching where you're actually looking after other people. So you had to learn quickly, you had to learn on the job, you had to learn the right way, or what you believe to be the right way at the time. And that's what I did. So, obviously starting out, you don't know much. You're green, naturally, you're learning all the time. But I think back at that, and it was a very, very difficult time. And I sort of just navigated and found my way through it. But I wouldn't change the way I did it because it taught me fast.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Fail fast, learn quick, right? So just a shout out to Tony Ellis saying, big up Bobby, huge fan of you, bro. Most underrated trainer in the UK. Shout out to Lights Out as well, who's got a question for you. Bobby, should amateur boxing be broadcast across the UK to help its growth?
100%. They used to be quite big on it. So they used to stream the national, it was called the ABAs back in the day, and that used to get quite good coverage, I believe, on terrestrial TV. So they became household names, the amateurs, from the past. Unfortunately, over the years, that kind of dropped off, and broadcasters have sort of picked up bits and pieces over the years. I remember not too many years ago, the Haringey Box Cup was shown on London Live, just like things like that. And I'm a massive believer in amateur boxing. I believe boxing should be taught in schools. What I did for a year, I believe boxing should be amateur boxing should be broadcasted. As the pro boxing gets the limelight, doesn't it? Because it's entertainment and the people are known a bit more. But amateur boxing, these are the stars of tomorrow. All the champions you see now in the pros most of them were once amateurs. So I think it definitely deserves more coverage, more recognition, as well for the coaches and the team that are doing, helping these kids come through.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Rico's just saying ABA has produced some of the best champions in boxing. AJ's one of them. That's a good
point. AJ started at Finchley Boxing Club. We all know his story, and just Finchley Boxing Club, another good amateur gym, but does the same thing it's been doing for years. And sometimes you unearth a real gem, and he came through the system.
No, absolutely. And shout out to Rico, Crispy NG, Trey, and everyone who's my iBoxingHub brothers behind the scenes. Hi to you all. So we've got another question. Oh, so that's going to come up. Okay, I'm going to talk about Isaac in a second. So firstly, Bobby, I just wanted to understand a bit more about the coaching role. So what's your thought process when you're trying to prep one of your fighters? What is the steps and stages that you go through to prep them?
So currently we look after, we got an amateur squad. We also have a professional stable. So at the moment I look after Isaac Chamberlain. We also look after an elite amateur boxer, Vivian Parsons. We look after Mohammed Samir, who's a prospect. He's 5-0, and Ollie Edwards, who's 9-0. So you're working with a whole range of not just abilities, but experience levels. So the first thing is it really depends on the athlete in front of you. So boxing being an individual sport, is really who's, for me, the art of coaching is coaching the person in front of you, the individual in front of you first, and then you build a program around them. But essentially, to answer your question, boxers, they got to be sparring, they got to be doing their road work, they got to be doing their S&C nowadays. They got to be looking after what they eat. So there's no sort of hidden formula to what a top level boxer, or even any pro boxer or elite amateur, how they should be living. It's stuff that they've been doing for years. But ultimately, if I was to summarize, I'd say, your program should be built around sparring first and foremost, because that is the most important thing. And then you tailor that program according to the individual in front of you.
Okay. And in terms of the game plan, then, how do you decide on what a game plan should be for a specific fight? Do you study the opponent? Is that how you figure out, or is there some other process that you go through?
Yeah, do you know, it's interesting because some coaches aren't big on like game plans, and they're not big on even like studying opponents. Me personally, if you know the opponent, because in the amateurs, a lot of the time you don't know who you're boxing. You turn up on the day. In the pros, it's different. You go through 8, 10, 12-week training camps. I'm quite big on studying opponents. It's something I enjoy doing. It's like a tactical breakdown of who's in front of you and how you're going to overcome that style, because every boxer has their style. Every boxer has tendencies. So you can pick up habits, tendencies, styles of anyone that you watch. And it's just about trying to navigate the best strategy in order to overcome that opponent. So the opponent's one side of it, and then you take into account your boxer and who you're working with, and their strengths and weaknesses as well. And once you weigh that all up, and you study it and you look at it, you come up with what you believe is the right strategy to overcome that. And I enjoy that part of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What's the most difficult part of professional boxing coaching?
Honestly, I'd say the setbacks that are out of your control. So whatever we control, it's a blessing. We love to do, So we never complain about the coaching side, the training side, putting in the hours with our boxers, because we work with boxers that are serious. The ones that want to do something in the sport, that are committed to the sport. So in terms of like the athlete, that's never the issue. Putting in the hard work on both sides, because it's a commitment from the boxer and the coach ultimately. But I'd say the setbacks that are out of your control is always difficult to deal with, whether that's a show being pulled, or whether that's an injury, or whether that's the opponent getting injured and having to pull out. And I've experienced pretty much all of that so far.
Yeah, no, absolutely. In terms of physical fitness to mental strength ratio when going in for a fight, what would you put that ratio at?
I heard something once which I take with me now. So in training camp, when you're weeks and weeks and weeks out, don't get me wrong, mentally it's tough to diet, it's tough to make certain sacrifices, it's tough to come to the gym when you're feeling tired and all the rest of it. But training camp is very much a physical thing. You've got to get yourself physically fit, conditioned. You've got to spar. You've got to get your timing, your speed. You've got to improve your strength. So there's so many different things you develop physically. But the closer you get to a fight, that's when it becomes more about the mental.
Right.
Because all the on fight week, all that physical, all that hard work that I just mentioned, all those attributes, they should have been covered. They should have been done. They should have been, they're in place now. So you're going to be as ready as you are come fight week. So now, the closer the fight gets, it's more about psychological, little psychological edges, and just really making sure, me personally, I like to make sure my boxers are happy, they're relaxed, and a lot of positive visualization.
Okay. And is that how you'd get them like mentally ready for the fight then? Just positive vibes, or is there something else you can do to get them like mentally strong and just focused?
Yeah, I think you'll find a lot of boxers naturally are mentally resilient. It's sort of a character trait that they need, but a lot of them, most of them that you come across have got, not all of them. But yeah, to answer your question, near the fight, it's keeping them relaxed, positive visualization. Okay, run through your mind what you want to, try and manifest what you want to happen. Imagine yourself in that ring. I think that's very powerful. The closer you get to the actual event.
Yeah, and of course, all of that goes up and down, doesn't it? Like we were talking today about Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou's fight, and I'm just saying, like Tyson Fury wasn't really mentally in the right place. What would you say about that in terms of where Tyson was mentally in that fight?
For the Ngannou fight, I think
Mm.
when I looked at it, to me initially it was like I looked at a person when I've seen a lot of sort of people saying things about Tyson, and first of all, I think you need to we need to big up Ngannou's performance in that fight because no one thought he would do as well. At the same time, it was a poor version of Tyson Fury. We know that. So when the two sort of come together, that's what you got.
Yeah.
At the same time, I looked at it and just thought that Tyson didn't look like someone to me who had, I say, prepared for the fight. You can physically, like I just mentioned a minute ago, you can physically prepare for a fight. You know, like when you're physically there, like your body's in the gym, but your mind can be elsewhere. You know. And I just think it was someone who maybe went through the camp and did the sparring and did everything. Did they do it 100%? Maybe not. But at the same time, I don't think he. I think he probably overlooked Ngannou and went through the camp, went through the motions of it, but not necessarily put in what the effort he normally would, and probably didn't even think it was going to be a challenge, to be honest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you. So we can sidetrack now onto Isaac's fight because that kind of goes in line with like the mental strength that I wanted to talk to you about as well, because Mikael Loal, a lot of people have said that he wasn't really mentally in the right place as well for his fight with Isaac. What do you think about that?
It's hard to tell because obviously we don't know what goes through the mind of the opponent. We just focus and know what the boxer that we're working with, what's really happening with them, and even sometimes they're good at trying to hide things themselves. So I think with Mikael, first of all, I got a lot of respect for him. I actually know Mikael from the early days, before he even had his amateur bout. So I know how far he's come from where he started to where he got to, and he got to I think 17-0 unbeaten British champion. So he done very well for himself. Obviously, looking after Isaac, I knew Isaac had the style to beat him. Very, very, very proud of the performance that Isaac put in that night. And I said straight after that fight, I'm as proud of his performance as I am of the result, and that's generally how I felt. And whether he was there mentally or not, I'm not sure. He said he was. He to be fair, I think he was, because you can always kind of tell fighters give off an aura, especially on fight week, when you're around them a lot on fight week, and you can tell. And he seemed very relaxed to me, Mikael, on fight week, and like he was genuinely up for the fight. So I don't think it's a case of, and obviously being in the corner, you see these things like people saying that he didn't try and this. It's not a case of he didn't try. He did try. Because that takes away from the performance of Isaac when you say that, and I don't think that was the case. I just think on the day he couldn't adapt to what was in front of him.
Yeah, exactly. And what about Isaac's performance? Because you said that you were as proud of his performance as he was of the result, which was obviously the win. What was it about his performance in particular that you were really, really happy about?
He stuck to a game plan.
Yeah.
So I'm quite big on game plan and strategy going into high level fights, because I think it plays a very important role at that level. And for me to see that strategy come out, you work on these things in the gym for, in our case, he was in camp for 13 weeks going into that fight. And we drilled certain little things like, edging off to the right from the center of the ring, constantly using the feints and the lead hand to break the opponent's rhythm. And when you start to see that in action, those detailed technical elements, for me, it's just like, it's very satisfying. And he was very disciplined in that approach, and he did it for 12 rounds. So I was very, very proud of him for that.
Yeah, no, he did an amazing job. A lot of people are asking now what's next for him. I know Vidal Riley has asked that he wants to fight Isaac. Yeah, so Bukayo, that's your question as well. Do you think we'll see him fight Vidal next? And how do you rate Vidal?
First of all, I'm seeing Bukayo Saka's name on the screen.
Yeah, shout out to Bukayo Saka.
Yeah, big Arsenal fan. What's next for Isaac? So he's having a rest at the moment. That's the most important thing. Like I said, he did a long training camp for that fight. So he needs to rest his body, his mind. So once he comes back, we'll analyze where he is with everything and what the next move should be. What I would say is Isaac's been at domestic level for a long time now. He's been knocking around that level for a long time, and he's just captured the British and Commonwealth title in a very good performance. And so I feel like he's ready and he deserves to move on now. So whatever move, we think is best for him as a team, it will be a move that progresses him forward. And that is the right move for his career. And obviously he wants to be a world champion. So it has to be, a goal and a move that's going to work us towards that.
Absolutely. Rico's put a comment up. I interviewed Chev Clark and he said he's pushing for his mandatory position. Is that a fight you're looking at next?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. It's whatever fight makes the most sense. Obviously, Isaac boxes on Sky. Chev's with DAZN. Very good fighter, Chev. Comes from a good pedigree background. But to be honest, it's brilliant because, like, bringing it back to Isaac, he's in the right. He's the guy with the belts. He's the guy with a target on his back. He's the champion. So he deserves now, especially after the years he's gone through and put in the sport. One thing we can all, I'm sure, agree on is Isaac deserves to choose his own move where possible and do what benefits him.
Yeah. So also Chris BNG is asking about whether you might want to challenge for a European title. I guess that's another option as well.
Yeah, definitely. We watched the fight on the weekend with Michael Seslak and Tommy McCarthy. And it was quite a one-sided fight. Expected maybe McCarthy to do a bit more, but I think he got stopped. When was it? I think in round 7. I think I need to watch the fight back. But he holds the European title. He's a guy from Poland. Not the biggest name, but that's the direction I think Isaac should be moving towards. European or even fringe world level, or a guy, former world champion. I think that makes the most sense for him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Want to also big up to Ra. We've got a question up here. Where do you stand on sparring intensity, given that every headshot is more brain damage?
I think sparring is very important. I also think there's a right place and the right time for sparring, and it's obviously in preparation for competition. Reality is you have to spar. It's an important part of your preparation, the most important part of your preparation. But what I don't like is you hear stories or you see sparring getting out of control, very heavy sparring very often, long duration throughout the week. It has to be managed professionally. It has to be managed by a coach that knows what they're doing. And as long as your sparring is managed and you're getting the right type of sparring, I think those two factors is what's important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Tony Ellis has got a question for you. Can you rank the top 5 cruiserweight champions from UK in order?
Tony, man, I'm never good at these questions. I'll be honest. Like, I honestly, I don't look at. I look at the top contenders, obviously, but like the way my brain is programmed as a trainer, I always look at the next sort of move and the next step for my kids that I work with. But look, cruiserweights in the UK, obviously, I put Isaac up there. I believe he gives any cruiserweight in the country a great fight, and I think he's always got a chance. I think Chris Billam-Smith is probably one of the most improved fighters over the last 18 months, and he's proven that, beating Lawrence Okoli. Who else have you got? Richard Riakpor's been quite inactive, so it's quite difficult to see where he's at, and I think that's an issue. Lawrence has just come off a loss, so has Jordan Thompson. So there's a lot of guys knocking around. I'd like to see Mikel Lowell back in the mix. Still, I think he can still deliver exciting fights with his punching power. And then you've got Vidal Riley coming up. Just won the English title, and he's very skillful. So the cruiserweight division in the UK. Sorry, I didn't rank them, but hopefully I mentioned enough there for you. But the cruiserweight division in the UK is hot, and there's a lot of great domestic fights there to be made for sure. I think next year you're going to see a lot of them fight each other. Yeah,
no, really exciting to see what happens in this division. So Raz, got another question for you. How useful is S&C these days? Some coaches say a lot of it doesn't translate to the actual movements in the ring.
I think S&C has its place. A lot of old school coaches don't believe in S&C. A lot of new school coaches swear by it. I'm sort of in the middle. I think S&C has its place as long as it's sport specific and as long as it relates to the sport you're doing. I know that sounds obvious, but you do get. I think that's the most important thing. So you need to find an S&C team or coach that understands boxing and understands the mechanics involved, the biomechanics involved in boxing, in order to tailor a program that is going to suit you most in the ring. Because that's what you're preparing for. You're preparing for in-ring action, combat sport. So it all needs to be linked to that.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really interesting question from Ra as well. Do you know approximately what percentage of talent is lost due to a fighter not having the financial backing to launch a career? And we had our last guest from last week, who was Maria, and she was saying about how difficult it is to actually be a professional fighter in the UK, and you've got to, you know, sell all your own tickets and things like that. So this is obviously a big issue for fighters. Like,
I like to think, and I do believe that ultimately, if you're talented enough and you're meant to make it, I think 99 times out of 100, you will. I think boxing is one of them sports where not always, but I think the cream always rises to the top. You know,
right.
You think about how many fighters in the past came from poor backgrounds and underprivileged backgrounds and nothing really, but became champion, and they found a way to do it. And that's the beauty of the sport, is that you don't need much to be a champion in this sport. You know, you just need the right person guiding you. You know, in terms of facilities, you see some facilities that, you know, you wouldn't probably wouldn't pass certain health and safety checks, but you don't need a lot in boxing to be, you know, to be good at it. You just need a lot of hunger, a lot of will, a good coach to check your technique, and, you know, you need to have the right ingredients within you as a person, because you're going to go through a lot. And as long as you're ticking those boxes, it's more about you as an individual. You can make it. But in terms of personal experience, you mentioned Maria. She was a very talented fighter, Maria, and Maria Melanitsa, we trained her for a while. We only ended up having one pro fight together, myself and Connor Ward, who works with me. And she was very talented. I can only say, I won't name names, but like, she used to give, you know, female prospects that you're seeing now on major networks, you know, really hard time in sparring, because she just had that style where she was aggressive, she was strong, she was game, she was fearless. And I looked at her, and I know, I still believe, I definitely think she would have been a champion, but, you know, she moved back to Croatia to be with her family, and, you know, obviously with our blessing, and, you know, she was a very nice girl as well. So I wish her all the best. But that's one personal experience I've had in terms of that question.
Yeah. No, thank you. Quickly about your other three fighters then. So you've got Oliver Edwards, Mohammed, SMG Samir, and obviously Vivian Parsons. So for Ollie and Mohammed, could you just give me a bit about their fighting styles, each of them, that make them really different and interesting to watch?
Yeah, so Mohammed Samir, fast hands, can box orthodox and southpaw, and hits really hard.
Right.
So he's very exciting. He ticks those boxes. Still 5-0, so he's still early stage of his career, but I'm excited to see where he goes. Ollie, the machine Edwards, as we call him, he is a machine because he's very strong, very aggressive, and very good power, and again, just tough. So he's definitely going to be in exciting fights. I can see that from now, and I look forward to the journey with him. He should be challenging for some sort of title early next year. And then Vivian Parsons, what can I say about her? We call Vivian the Oblivion Parsons. Been training since 11 years old, 12 years old with me, now 20, won everything as an amateur from junior, youth to elite national champion, GB champion, now on the England team. So she's boxing internationally, and she's going to be a star. Like, she learns, her rate of development is still something that amazes me, because she learns very quick, but she's able to produce that learning through muscle memory very quickly. And she's a cat. She can counter punch. She can box on the back foot. She can cut the ring and be aggressive. So over those years, she's learned different styles. So ultimately, to be the best, you can't have one style. You've got to be able to adapt accordingly. And she's the definition of someone that can adapt to what's in front of her, and that's what makes her very exciting.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And they're all lovely, lovely, great, amazing people, because I met all of them. So about your team in general, then, what do you think makes your team a successful team?
May sound obvious, but the fact that we communicate and we're on the same page. And as a team, communication, is key. Like, it's not like number one is communication, because we have quite a big team now. It's not just myself, Connor Ward in the gym as the boxing trainers, but we also have a guy called Lee Rickards, who we use as our nutritionist for many of the fighters, and we've got Rory and Ade, who we use as S&C coaches, who are great, and we all get on very well. There's a really good bond between the team. We communicate, and ultimately we always, we all have our input, so it's not a case of people just disagreeing or agreeing, because you need different opinions, but we always manage to come together and do what's right for the boxer in question. So I think, to answer your question, like, it all comes back to communication.
Yeah. So I had a question about boxing coaches in general. Obviously, you guys do a lot of work. The wins are a team effort. But do you feel that the coaches in general, whether they receive the recognition and respect that they deserve?
I think, because I've been in both the amateur and the pro world for a little while now, not so much the pro world. I entered pro coaching in 2020. But I think in amateur boxing, I can definitely say there are many great coaches that I know personally that you wouldn't have heard of. You wouldn't have heard of, because they don't get, they're not on TV, and they don't get that sort of, that sort of coverage. But they're great coaches. And so maybe it is lacking, it's, in the amateurs a little bit, maybe not. But then you sort of flip that on its head, and then you've got like pro coaches, because they've got a notable fighter, they kind of get status that way. And, it's a really interesting dynamic when you look at it. But, that's why it goes back to the question about if amateur boxing in particular, was on terrestrial TV or on TV more often, you'd get to know these boxers and who looks after them, and, give the right people the right recognition they deserve. Because another point people need to remember is amateur coaches don't get paid. We don't get paid. So I went years and years and years not getting paid for working with fighters, because they do it for the love and passion. It's amateur sport, right? It's grassroots sport. So you're doing it for the love and the passion of the sport, and to help the person in front of you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So these shows, Green Diamond Boxing, is all about self-improvement, and how can we learn from elite athletes and elite boxers and people in the boxing world, how we can also be the best version of ourselves. If you were to advise someone on, how to be the best version of themselves, what kind of advice might you give them?
Be the best version of yourself. What came to my mind initially when you asked me that question was the word challenge. So challenge yourself.
Okay.
Like, come out your comfort zone. If you're doing something and you've been doing it for years, try and switch something up. I'm not saying you've got to suddenly change career or move to another country, but look, challenge yourself. If there's something you've always wanted to do, give yourself 2 weeks. Commit to it for 2 weeks. That's the challenge I tend to throw out at people, that I'm talking to, is like, okay, you wanna lose weight, try this plan for 2 weeks and then come back to me. Or you want to feel better, or eat these foods for 2 weeks and come back to me. So I'd definitely say challenge yourself, to be the best version of yourself. That's one for you.
That's great. That's a good one to end on. How can people connect with you, Bobby, if they want to either start a PT with you, because I know that you're still doing PTs in Brixton Gym. If they just want to connect with you, follow your journey, how can they do that? Probably
Instagram, quite active on there. Got a decent platform on there. So at Boxing Bobby. The gym Instagram is @Brixton, AFEWEE. So that's our gym based in the Brixton Recreation Centre, where we do everything from amateur, kids, professional, recreational. So, if you're looking to get into boxing and you're local enough to that area or not, everyone's welcome down to our gym. The doors are open to everyone. No matter what you want to use the sport for, come down, talk to us, or send me a message, get in touch. That's the best way. Well, I've got loads of questions coming through, but we are at the end of our time. So I just want to thank you so much, Bobby, for joining. It's been a pleasure having you, and hopefully catch up with you soon. Thank you, everyone. No problem, guys. Thank you. Yeah, see you soon. Take care. Bye. It's another bang. All the Muslim cars now, with your bag it up. I start my card with a sweet one, please. Someone flicks me a bag by the